Okay, welcome to Valence Developer Diaries number 41, which I'm surprised. I don't know why, I just can't believe it's 41 already. So today we're going to go over a new item in Valence for Nitro App Builder, which is called NAB Developer Console, NAB being for Nitro App Builder. And this was just released in the latest build for 6.3. Okay, and then Sean, please jump in if I miss something or whatever.
Sure.
So this is for Nitro App Builder apps, and it's when you're running a Nitro App Builder app that was built in Nitro App Builder, not when you're running actual designer, it's when you're running the app. So we have this app right here, called customers, and you're going to see this new icon in the portal, which says NAB Developer Console. The reason you see that is because if you will see it, I should say, if you have access to Nitro App Builder. If you don't have access to Nitro App Builder, you won't see it. However, if you have access to Portal Admin, you could choose a setting to allow it to be shown if you have access to Portal Admin and not Nitro App Builder. The reason for that is some places with production instances don't even allow anyone to have access to Nitro App Builder because you shouldn't be changing things on production, you should be changing in development. So this is a way to be able to turn that on. So let me just show that real quick. So there's a new setting, Show Developer Console for admins. So if you have access to the Portal Admin app, then it would show that icon if you don't have access to Nitro App Builder. You don't have access to either of those, and you need to be able to view the developer console. There is one other way, and I'm just going to show that real quick before we dive into the console, is if you open up developer tools in your browser and make sure that you're in this app's frame. Easiest way is just to say, select something in there, go to console. You should see the app, so customers dash. And in here, you can type valence.nab.developer.console and call that, and it'll open it up. So there's a different way if you don't have access to Nitro App Builder or admin in, let's say, your production environment, however you want to see the developer tools.
Another good use of that would be maybe you're debugging a user's machine and they don't have,
That's a good point.
access to it. So
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Okay, so I just wanted to cover that basis. So how to get it open, and to open it, I'm just going to click this button. Okay. By default, it opens up to the right, and it has a width of like 600. I'm going to adjust my window so we can see both. So here's the new NAB Developer Console. The window itself has the title of the app that you're currently running. Our app is called Customers, so we see customers. We place the app ID in the header, in case you needed that. And then we have, I'm just going to go from the top down. We have the search and the clear, which clears the search, the sort change, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But then we have these three tabs: app variables, NAB app variables, and widgets. App variables are your defined app variables, anything that you've added to your application. So this NAB app has country, customer name, customer number, hide state, load customer location, and state filter value. When this loads, it's then starting to capture what is going on in the app. So right now we see a value column. So that's the current value of that app variable, what the previous value was. If that app variable has an expression, which, Sean, do you think I should be opening up App Builder and just show that, or?
I don't know. I think
Okay.
just probably clicking on the expression is enough, maybe.
Okay. I'm just going to go over the counts first. So if it has an expression, it would show this, and you can click it, and we'll do that in a minute. the date and time it was changed. Really, the time is more important to you probably when you're running it. And then this passed flag, which means that is it being passed down to the back end on calls. Because within App Builder, you can say, I have these app variables, but I don't need them to be passed down because they're not going to be used in, let's say, a VB and virtual, or my RPG programs, or my programs don't even care about it. That helps to declutter the calls. By default, they're always passed, but you can change that within App Builder. So to give an idea, like I was saying, right when it opens, it's getting what values are available for, let's say, these app variables. And then once they start changing, that's when you'll start seeing it within the developer console. So if I click, here, I'll do this. So we have this state filter value, and I know it's linked to this filter. So if I change it, we automatically see that the developer tools did a quick highlight telling us the current value now is FL, and the previous one was a null, was empty. If I change it to something else, now I see it's Illinois, and it was Florida. And then we see that when it was changed. And that's why we have this sort change, because you might want to see just most recently on the list. The search, so name will filter all three of these tabs automatically right now. And I can easily clear it and undo my sort changed if I want to. So let's go to expression. So hide state is defaulted to true. And if you're familiar, and Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but when expression runs, we would just log that in the browser's console, right? I think.
That's correct. And that was something that, we would use ourselves for, when we were, developing this or, looking at problems on a customer system, we'd have to bring up the dev tools and try and see like, all right, this expression ran and, we would see some details there, but this takes it to a much better level.
Okay. So it's putting the expression in here. So whatever you have in that expression for that app variable, we're showing it. And then here below would show what values were assessed for that expression. So, and we would think we would see country. Now
Sorry, but just so for everyone's benefit, I don't know if everybody knows this, but looking at this expression is going to run every time the app variable of country changes. So this expression is just waiting out there, wanting to run anytime country changes its value. In case everyone doesn't know what that means there.
And to go further on that, this did run, and that's why it has a value of true. However, we have no evaluation logs available yet because that expression ran prior to us opening up the dev console. So to hide the state, we see that it needs to, United States. So I'm going to pick something that's not, clear my filter. Here's not, and then let's pick one that is. Now, if I go back, we see what was the values that it used to determine for this expression. So when it ran last, country was set to United States. Does that make sense, Sean? Am I saying it right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, so anytime it runs, you'll see that in the expression that ran, and it will provide, in this case, the values. There's only one value because that expression is only requiring the use of one other app variable, country. But if you had an expression that had more stuff in there, those values, you'd see more. You'd see every value in there that was used to evaluate that expression.
Correct. And so, yeah, as you're going through the app, if this is up and running, you will see your app variables change if they aren't changing. That would be the same as if you're form helper, or you're calling a backend program and it's setting app variables, you would see those change here too. I guess right away, I'm just going to ask, is there any questions about this section for app variables for the app? Sean, is there anything else I should touch on before I move to the next NAB variables? Oh,
Are
you
you
know
gonna
what? I
gonna
should
show
touch.
changing? Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
I forgot about that. Okay, so if for some reason you wanted to change your app variable just to see um, behaviors changing in your app, you can do so by clicking this edit icon. You don't have that ability with app variables that are based off of expressions because, it's based off that expression. So let's do that. Let's go and change. So right now I know that hide state is false because the country is the United States. And I know that hide state is linked to this form field state to hide it or show it. So let me change country. So hide state is true now, and the state is hidden.
So maybe if you set that back to United States, now we'll see that state show, right?
Yep, and it's shown because this is now false again, that expression ran.
So you could this could help, I would think, with debugging something in the app that it's not working properly. You're like, I don't know if this app variable is being set. Well, what happens if I change it? I can see real time what it will do on the screen as I change the app
Right.
variable. So this could really help you with isolating issues or even just trying things.
Yeah, I mean, before it was kind of a black box, right? I like set my app variables. I think I'm setting them right, and things don't seem to be correct. And oh, I had a typo when I was setting this one, or you know what I mean? And that's kind of like we really didn't expose that to easily find that. And now you should be able to easily find it. All right. NAB variables is just all the canned app variables that are built in with Nitro App Builder. And some of these you can interact. I mean, I don't know. You're just experimenting or something like app message. Now we see the hello app message there. Um, same, the user, the ID, you'll see that here. I don't know if I really need to touch on anything else here, Sean.
And just in case people aren't familiar with these are app variables that every app NAB application provides. It's just built in, and you can use these app variables for various things. Like you might be pulling the user ID at the bottom there. You need it for something. They're available, on. I believe all these are available on the back end, right? I should.
We selectively pass,
Okay.
we always pass user ID. We always pass like his phone, his
His phone.
tablet. You know, I don't think we're not, like passing down. We're not
Everything.
passing NAB message or
Right. Right.
NAB info. Like,
Yeah, so some of these app variables, they're how you use them is you set a value and then it does something. Like Johnny just set NAB info to something, and then that little info box came up on the bottom.
right. It's the same thing as within your app when you easily could just set it and it
Yes.
shows that snack bar. But this is just a list of it there in case there's some values that you wanted to see. So
Plus, there's so many NAB variables now. We'd hate to clutter them in your own custom ones. It's nice to just look at that list, that the ones that you created.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go back here. So widgets section. So this lists all the current widgets in the current section you're in. So this section only has one. It's a grid. If you hover over that, it'll show you a tip of the section. So it's main. The name of the widget. So it's called customer list. The ID of the widget, and then we have NAB name. NAB name is the name that you provided it, if you provided one within Nitro App Builder. So we gave it a name of customer list. And this is used, for either you would name widgets so the back end can easily get at that widget, or the front end, within App Builder, you need to get to that widget, usually name it. If you hover over it, you'll see we attempt to highlight it, and then you can reload its data. And I think I'll come back to the reload once we go through the console and end with network calls. Don't you agree, Sean?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, with the network for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the three sections up top. I think the first and most important reason we created this was for app variables, and it was for the custom app variables within the app, so they can be easily seeing what's going on. Oh, my backend's setting it wrong. That's why this didn't happen. To make it a lot easier to view that information. So I guess I'm just going to ask once if there's any questions, and if not, we'll move to the bottom part where there's console and network.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Is there a way within this of tracking when events are fired?
Yes, that's happening in the console.
That's awesome.
It's funny you should ask.
Now, I will say this is version 1 of this. So, we're going to rely on all of you and then ourselves using it to we need this, or this should be changed. But yeah, we do put some stuff in the console, and one of them is when an event is fired. All right. Okay. So the bottom console network. First, if you hover over here, you can drag it, and we'll do that. I'm just going to clear this. Okay, so right away, we just put the version there. So the current version of Valence is there. Quick link to the form, quick link to feature requests to the form, and then a quick link to YouTube for developer diaries videos. Now the console is going to show you things that happen, like the question just happened, firing an event. This app has an event that it fires. It fires an event when we click a row in the grid to show the details of the customer in the second section. So I'm just going to do that. So right away we have this behavior. So some behaviors ran. And again, this is version 1. So, but the behavior was fire an event. The name was show details. Okay. And then we see show details was fired. And here's the information that was passed for that. I'm going to move this over more. Let's see. And you can expand all, collapse all. And then we have these other events, which I don't know. We haven't talked about this internally, but these are happening hide main. We do those internally in the app when we're showing something. So
it's one of those features people probably not everybody realizes even there, but against a section, there's events.
Yes. And I use that. I use it.
Yeah. That you can
use it.
Yeah. Maybe just a quick
bring it up. So we're talking about it. So show section events.
So even though you don't have anything in there,
Still
It's
going.
still firing, the event's firing on hide main, on show details. And then if he were to go back, you're going to see on show, on hide details, on show main would run.
Yep. High detail show main. But I actually do use those. So yeah, this is we're trying to give like what behavior information has happened. So we log that and then events that have been fired. I think that's pretty much what we expose as of right now in the console.
Can you do something so that expression runs? Does that show in there too? Like if you
I
click
think
that,
the expression, we just always keep it at the
okay, we're not showing it in the console.
Yeah, because you can easily see it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? In
Yeah.
the list to the idea was not to clutter this so much where it's
Yeah.
getting too messy. Yeah, so this behavior ran, and this is just calling an RPG program. And again, we might want to we'll probably clean this up to be a little bit more understandable what's happening, but this is the program that was called, and it was an RPG program. Had no action.
Yeah, as everything you see in here right now is our like how we write out
Right.
the JSON or the data to the back end for saving these apps, where you might find like there might be characters in there that'll be like A, B, and you will go, what's that? But as Johnny said, like, eventually we could probably, map those to more meaningful names so it makes more sense when you see it here.
Right.
But this one's kind of easy. I see RPG and I see EX NAB button. Like I would recognize the name of my program. I'm not passing an action.
Okay. All right. Is there any questions on that? Floor is open if anyone does. And feel free to bust in if you have a question that pops up at any point. Okay, so network calls. So these are calls that are being made to, let's say your data sources on widgets to get the data, and calls to like your RPG programs if you're calling one on a button, or if you have any form helpers, all those will be logged in here when those happen. So if I just came here real quick and just reloaded this, we see that this call happened. It gives you the data source ID, when it was run, how long it took, and if you drill into it, you can see what was passed. So this is what was passed down. Some of this is, stuff that's used for Nitro App Builder, but we also have the app bars in here. So if you're, wanting to know, like, well, the only app var that is being passed down right now is like customer number. Okay. Then the response. So just expand it. So we see that, okay, here's our data. These are the field names that, this data source has for these columns. And trying to think, is there anything else in this part, Sean? Request and response?
I don't think so.
Okay. I don't think so either. Okay, so you can easily see that. Let me go back out. We also have this checkbox of return SQL. So this is for your data sources, and this is, I find, very helpful. If people don't know this already, that in Portal Admin, we have a log section where you can turn on logging. So if, let's say, your data sources are running and you have logging on, you could, start logging, run your app, go back to Portal Admin logs, and then find that app and find it by the user, yourself, whoever's running it, and see what the SQL statement was at that time. for like debugging. I might have, app variables that are using VB and virtual, and my data is coming back with nothing. And I'm like, wait, why? Well, I want to see what the statement was. So if I say return SQL and I reload this, you'll see this SQL button. You'll also see it in the details here. If I click it, it's just going to give you the exact SQL statement that was used to run for that call. So you can see that without having to jump from your app to Portal Admin and stopping and starting and so on. So,
And this is really helpful when
Yeah.
we're getting back data and the data is just not right. And you're like, well, I've got, VV and virtuals.
filters.
I'm filtering data based on a click. Yeah. And it's like, well, what is running? This isn't right.
Yep.
Now you can see that instantly.
So I think that's a good spot to go back to this widget section and explain why we have this here. And that's because let me go to like Sean was saying, I'm not sure why, I don't know, like shipped orders 9. I'm like, that doesn't seem right. What's going on? Well, I can easily just say, okay, let's clear this. I just want to reload this widget, which is a KPI. And well, KPI doesn't have like a UI to like say reload. Like the grid, we lucked out. We have a paging toolbar on it, so I can easily click it. However, on this, I can't. So if I go and hover over that KPI, you can see that we have this reload. So I can hit reload. It reloaded it. And then I can quickly go and say, okay, well, what did you run? What was the SQL statement you ran to do that? So any of the widgets that have available data sources, you'll see this here and you'll be able to reload it. So same here. There's a statement that was ran. And then the form statement. And this is just a standard filter. We did a filter widget within there. I think the map. Yeah, the map itself is using a VB and virtual. So if we looked at the actual source of the data source, it would be cusno equals VB and virtual. And it was replaced with a 1. I think that's. Oh, one last thing. One thing I just thought of. And this is useful, and Sean, you could step into when like I have a form helper, like, on render when it's rendered or when it's shown or, whatever it is. And, something's going wrong with my RPG program, my backend program. I want to debug it. So, and you could from here, and I want to debug it at the state of like when that ran, like, this call right here, I know was bad. It returned something wrong. My RPG program. I'm going to jump in, set it up for debug, and then I can right click here and say replay, and it's going to make that same call. The same information that was passed. Did I say that correctly, Sean?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you might say, well, what do you mean? What's the difference? Why not just do the refresh widget? Well, a form helper isn't available through a refresh widget, right? And then plus the data for that widget may have changed by now anyway, and you just want to focus in on that bad call. So you can just do it right here by doing the replay, and it'll be the same values that it was at the time when it originally called it.
Right.
The other way, a way I've been using this is, let's say like Johnny was saying, the form helper. Oftentimes, I'll like, let's say I'm, putting the back end for a form helper. I know the field name is cusno or something, and then I'm like, oh, it's f1.cusno or something like that. I'll just make the call in here and then bring up the request. And then that way I can just quickly see what is being passed. What are the names of every field in here? It just saves time than having to go into the data source or the widget and look at that and then go back to
Right.
I just bring it up right in here and I see everything right there. It's in alphabetical order. So for just kind of, when someone's working on the front end code, like they're making a call, like a button click type call, just say, go ahead, make the call. Back end might not be ready, but that way I can go through and I can look at that call and I could see all of the field names, all the data that's being passed without having to go back and forth and say, oh, what's the name of that field and that sort of thing. So that's streamlined that process a lot, I think, for working front end and back end together. If there's two separate people doing it.
Nice. The other thing too is, here was just a button that just did, a program call. It's logged in the network call, and you'll see though, we put the program. If you have an action, of course, there won't be an ID. And then, the same thing, you can see the request and then you can receive a response. So this RPG program just responds with message present complete and success true. But if, your button program returned setting app variables and so on and so forth, you would see all that in the response. Okay. Let's see. I want to talk about the loading of this too.
Hey,
So
sorry, just one question. So is the information in the Dev Console available after the fact, or do you need it open before yes, you need it open.
yes, and that's what I was just about to talk about, like for if you have a startup program and such. We do check if, and this I'm going to bring when I'm talking about this, you're going to want to make sure that if you're using this and you want this ability to make sure that the browser isn't in stopping pop-ups. By default, it's going to stop pop-ups, and I'm not talking about altogether every website you go. I'm just talking about it'll ask you, like whatever your IBMI, this instance URL, a pop-up might have happened. We blocked it. Do you want to allow pop-ups? You're going to want to if you want to use this feature. So the feature is that if the developer console is open and the application reloads and it's been, say it's like 6 to 10 seconds or something, we could always bump that. If it's been within this time frame, we will automatically load it, reopen it, and we'll be reopening it like right when the app is starting to begin. So it would capture if you had a startup program call, and so forth. I think that's what the question was kind of too.
Yeah. So, and just to read it, so the scenario, I have an application that, I start up, and let's say you have a startup program and, there's a problem with it, or you want to debug it, you want to look into this. So you're like, well, the startup program runs right away. It's quicker than I can even bring up this developer console. And the developer console only shows things after it's been open. So how do I get to something that happens right in the beginning when I don't even have a chance to start this thing?
Right. Because there is a time, and I like also too is like, if the app's starting to load and you're clicking this right away, it might not be available just yet. So you're clicking it and nothing happens. There is a bit of a timing too. So let's do that. So I'm leaving it open. I'm just going to reload it. And the best way to do that would just be right click the app and then look for a reload frame. Okay. So I'd hope to see it open again. And I did. Great.
So now all those startups would have been captured.
Yes. We see that on show main because that's a default thing that we do. So if there were, and we see all of our calls. Really, there's only two of them because we have this and then the data source. I mean, the combo dropdown. So the other thing too is by default, like I was saying, it opens to the right and it is a width of, let's say, 600. If you're on a large display, it won't, if it has the ability to go over the width of 600, it will. So I'm not a huge display, but let me just do this. I'm gonna right click. So it butted it up right next to it, the available width. Now, if it doesn't have an available width, and then I reload it, it's just going to be that default width that we have. So that's kind of nice. On like I've been finding when I'm on my larger like external like display, I know I'm going to be using it, so I can adjust it because before it was initially released, it was always this width, and then I always found myself like I need a little bigger. I'm on a big screen, so now we're trying to accommodate that. So if we have the real estate, we will use it. Okay. Um,
Johnny, can I ask you a question?
yes.
Um, you're using a two-screen development environment, right? Wouldn't you just put the developer console on your second like side screen and just make it really big?
Me personally, my notebook is meant for one thing, and then my large display is I do my window. I would do it just like you're seeing here on my large display.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
what I
just-
do, Richard, what you said. I put this on my other monitor, but so
Yeah.
however you want, you know.
Yeah, so it's like developer preference, but I've sort of,
Sure.
you know, I've been using this for a couple weeks now, and I've just sort of gotten into the habit of just having that thing open, you know, sliding it to my side screen, making it really large, and then refreshing the app so I know I have all the data in there. And it's like I've I've had situations where I'm like, wow, I really wish I had the developer console open when that happened. So I've just like gotten into the habit of opening it like all the time now as I'm developing because it's like so useful.
Nice.
I think trying to think if I missed anything. I don't think so. I think we touched on everything. I mean, this is, this is the first version. We're using it. We hope that others use it, and if they run into, things, maybe a feature request of it or an idea, or they find an issue, please let us know. We already know that there is one thing we want, and that is combo data sources in the widget list, like your drop downs, because I might want to reload that easily and see the call and see the SQL statement. That is going to be coming in the next update. I could show that real quick. So this is the same program, but I'm just running a different build. Here, I'm going to have to do this though. So the one thing that will look different is before we were only seeing the customer list, right? Because that was the only widget. Now we see that there's a drop down and it's labeled state. And that gives me the ability to say, if I hit like same reason, I have VVM virtuals for the SQL, like why is this drop down either empty and it shouldn't be, or, has data I don't expect? I could just say refresh that combos data source and then view the SQL. So that will be in the next one. And then we hope either the next update, this would show if a pop-up is up. So you could do the same thing, make that call. But right now, pop-ups don't show on the list. I think that's it. Unless, do you have any other thoughts? I don't really.
No.
Okay. All right. If anybody else, we have some people on. If you have any other questions or anything, feel free to just ask away right now, or we can be done. But
What release is this available in?
it's the latest one, which would be
It's one that came out on January 8th. Yeah.
There we
Mhm.
Yeah, it's the latest.
I would just encourage those that are watching this live that are part of a group of Valence developers. If you have colleagues that did not attend today, when the video of this replay is available, please encourage them to watch it because I think this one is a really important feature that's new and a real huge time saver. Also, if you need to get upgraded to this latest version, if you're like far behind and you're worried about upgrading, if you have any like issues you think you might run into, please email us at support@cnxcorp.com and we'll help you upgrade.
Yes. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, thanks for watching. And like Richard said, this will be on our YouTube channel for Developer Diaries and probably today or tomorrow, the latest. And so thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining, and we'll put the recording up. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.